Thanks to Storyblocks for sponsoring a portion of this video, but more on that later. Have you ever felt lost, not really sure what to do in life, not depressed, not sad, just not quite sure what steps to take next? And especially when looking back on the past year, it feels like a lot of us had so much time to ourselves to really think about our lives and where we're going and what we're doing in this extremely complex world. And I don't know about you, but it feels like a couple of times per year, I'll fall into this category of not really sure what to do, feeling slightly lost. And so in this video, I'm gonna explain how I get out of this position, whether you're in a rut or you're just not quite sure what the answer might be to some of the things that you've been thinking about. Then this is how I get out of it. There's really three primary strategies that I use, and I think it can be very useful. So let's further identify the problem here. I classify two different types of feeling lost. There's sort of this yes or no, black and white, sort of, should I buy a house in Miami or should I buy a house in Texas? Maybe I want to stay in Pennsylvania. These questions where you can say yes or no, or this or that, and it's very clear, that you have different options like this. But this can still be something that can end up getting you in a position where you might feel like you're lost. Thinking about how my life will totally be altered significantly based on the decision of where I decide to buy a house. I remember when I was 17, I spent many days feeling lost on the decision of should I go to Penn State or should I go to Pitt for college? And to some, this might not be a big decision, but I remember not being able to make a decision on this because I knew that it would change the course of my life entirely. The people that I meet, the things that I do, and the person that I would become would all be based off of this one life decision. And to be honest, if I hadn't chosen to go to Penn State back in 2016, then I probably wouldn't have started this YouTube channel, I wouldn't be making this video right now, and you certainly wouldn't be watching this video right now at this very moment. So you can see how sometimes it's easy to get caught up in our heads and have this almost paralysis by analysis style where we don't really know what to do, what's the right choice, and what do we do when we reach these crossroads. Now, that's one of the easier things to tackle when we have this yes or no type of question. But then we also have this deal where we can feel lost when it's sort of this open-ended question. And to be totally transparent, this doesn't happen to me very often, perhaps maybe once per year, sometimes even longer than that. And the last time I faced this was back in the summer. I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I lost some of my drive and my hunger, and I couldn't quite figure out why that was happening. So let me share with you both of these types of feeling lost. I think that I've developed somewhat of strategy to help dig out of this rut that sometimes we might have. So the first solution here is to journal. This is probably the easiest option, and this is also the most important of these three solutions for when we feel lost. It's to simply write down our thoughts pretty much on a weekly basis. I know some people who do this maybe on a monthly basis or just when they feel like it's really important to do so. I try to write things down nearly every day, and it really helps with when I feel lost. I can go back and I can look on my goals from a year ago. I can look at how I viewed the world a year ago and the things that were most important to me. And there have been times in my life where I've been working so much that I begin to forget about the things that actually matter. And so not only can journaling really help me when I feel lost, but it also helps keep me grounded. And it really, I think there's some times when we will start to drift away in a certain manner, maybe for the better or for the worse, but we can always go back and look at, what are my plans? So I actually have a video where I talked about journaling and why this is important. I think a lot of people still write this off, especially guys, because they think it's just weird to write things down. But if you start doing this, it's by far the biggest thing that helps me when I start to need a little bit more direction is I'll look back on my thoughts from 2016, from 2015. I've been doing this for at least 5 years now. And I'll be able to kind of just track my progress and also say, you know what, this is actually what matters to me. This is what's actually important. And it just really helps me get better direction because our brains are so intricate and they switch all the time, and we can be feeling one way for 1 week, and then maybe the next week we're going to feel a totally different way, or maybe the next year we're going to feel a totally different way and in a different place with different people around us in a different area. And so always having that sort of ground you can go back on and stand on, I think is really useful. All right, so when we are writing things down, I also like to think about visualizing the potential outcomes and essentially doing a cost-benefit analysis. That's kind of a nerdy word. We could just say make some T-charts and some pro-con charts about any decision or possible things you might be thinking about doing in your life. Like I said, we have so much going on inside of our heads, and it's important to have this down so that you can visualize this properly. So if you're ever faced with some of those yes or no questions of what should you do, should you quit your job or should you not quit your job? Should you end a relationship that you've been in for the past 4 years, or should you keep going even though it might be a little bit rocky? And so we can write down these things and create these T-charts, these pro-cons, but not only just in the short run, right? So I like to do this for any big decision. So what I do in these T-charts and also in this sort of cost-benefit analysis that I run is basically I'll do this for a 12-month projection, and then I'll look at it from a 5-year and a 20-year projection on worst and best case scenarios from any decision that I make in my life. Maybe this is overkill, I don't know, but it really helps me when I can look at it and I have 2 pieces of paper and I have everything written down on both of them, and it can show me exactly the potential outcomes of both of those situations. And then you can decide as well if you want to be more risk averse. For example, I know that when I was thinking about dropping out of college, the more risk averse option would be to stay in college, because the worst scenario from staying in college is that, well, at least maybe I don't have a job, but at least I have a college degree, and therefore it would be easier to get a job, and therefore I would be less likely to be homeless somewhere. There's one more thing that I think can really help, especially if none of those are really working very well, is to do a complete mental reset. And this is something I absolutely love to do. It's something I look forward to very much. And like I said, there was only really one time where I was feeling a little bit lost in last year, which was during the summer of 2020. I was lost with my YouTube channel. I wasn't really sure what direction to take it. I wasn't sure if I wanted to create more videos of the same types of videos, or if I wanted to change my style. Something just felt like I was in a rut with the channel, and I didn't feel that drive to make more videos for my YouTube channel last summer. And so what I did was a complete mental reset. I was up in the mountains in Colorado, living in a tent on some government land, just by myself. And maybe this doesn't work for everybody. Maybe I'm just an introvert, but it was really relaxing, and I was able to go back to sort of the basics and think about the directions that I wanted to take. And I came back with a totally different game plan. And I realized that, you know, with this YouTube channel, I'm happy with putting out maybe a couple of videos per month, but ones that I really love, rather than trying to just force out 3 videos a week like what I was trying to do previously. And so that's kind of what I did with that. And I think a good part of this as well to help me get out of this rut was actually Storyblocks. So this is the sponsor for today's video. If you are a creator, or if you are looking for footage and stock footage and images and audio, I use Storyblocks for so many of these different features. So you guys know me, I like to stay on budget when I am creating videos, and Storyblocks helps me accomplish this with their affordable subscription plan. But they have more than 1 million royalty-free stock assets, including 4K and HD footage, After Effects and Premiere Pro templates, music, images, sound effects, and so much more, all of which are royalty-free. So you can use your downloaded content anywhere for commercial and for personal use. So having this unlimited all access plan gives me the ability to have unlimited downloads on everything in their library and quickly try different options that I can do when I'm editing, rather than having to go out in the field and film something, which can end up taking me a lot of time. So I absolutely rely on Storyblocks when creating my videos. Most of the audio in my videos in the background, that music comes from Storyblocks traditionally, and so I use them quite a bit in my YouTube career. I know I have a lot of creator friends and other people who would be interested in signing up for Storyblocks, so I will leave a link to them down below in the description. If you want to try out Storyblocks, I think you will not regret it. So thank you, Storyblocks, for sponsoring a portion of this video. So I think a big hindrance to this problem of getting out of this feeling is sometimes it's the people who we are surrounding ourselves with. And I think it's just important to be careful of who you take advice from, because if you're going to somebody for life advice and they haven't figured out their lives themselves, I think it's just a weird situation to be in. And it's always great to poll people and to ask them their opinions. But I think the point here that I want to make is just make sure you take into consideration how much you're actually weighting someone else's opinion, because at the end of the day, it's yours that matters most. And I think sometimes why we feel so lost is because we have this massive internal conflict of it's sort of us and who we want to be and who we see ourselves as a person in confliction with how other people see us, how other people want us to be. And this could be on a smaller level, like maybe your friends, but it's probably more likely your family, of who you want to be or who you are as a person versus how your family wants you to be. Or it could be even more broad, and it could be something like who you are versus how society wants you to be, right? And we have so many different types of constraints and things that we're setting upon ourselves from other people. And it's just this big conflict. And sometimes I think this is one of the biggest reasons why people feel lost sometimes, is because they have this conflict of, I want to be this person, but if I be this person, then perhaps somebody will disown me, or I won't be approved by the rest of people in society, or they'll think it's weird. But at the end of the day, I have to remind myself that it's just life. And regardless of what choice you make now, you're probably going to be able to recover from that. And at any given point, at any given moment, you can likely pivot, you can likely change, and you can become anyone who you want to become. And it's not something that I think is set in stone. For example, when I dropped out of college, a lot of people told me that it was very foolish of a decision, and maybe it was. I don't think it was, but perhaps it was. But it's not the end of the world. You know, you can go back. A couple years from now, I can go back to school if I wanted to. And so sometimes these decisions, which seem so grand, which seem so large, and things that maybe we get caught up in, I like to just remind myself that it's just life. And I don't want to say that it doesn't matter, because it certainly does, but just realizing that at any given point, regardless of where you are, you can change for the better and put yourself in a better position. Thank you for watching the video, everyone. I really appreciate it. If you have any thoughts, let me know down below. I think we're going to hit 1 million subscribers this week. We'll see, only if you hit the subscribe button. Thank you, and I'll see everybody next time.